My mom thought I was obsessed with boys, so she sent me to a correctional camp. They broke me there. My mother assumed I was obsessed with boys, so she enrolled me in a correctional facility. They shattered me there. I learned the lessons they drilled into me, how to flinch at the sight of a male. Mom was ecstatic. I should have done this sooner, she beamed. Then she noticed the marks. Reality hit her. She dropped to the floor, begging for forgiveness. That was the day I escaped hell. It was Labor Day weekend. She came to pick me up. This is all because you kept sneaking around with boys, she rambled on during the ride. It's for your benefit. I kept my gaze low, lips sealed. One misstep and I'd be sent back. That thought alone made me tremble. We pulled into the driveway. Dad sat at the table inside, grinning. He opened his arms for an embrace, but seeing him crushed me. My chest tightened. Breathing became impossible. At that camp, we weren't allowed to see men. Not in real life, not even in magazines. Any slip-up meant punishment. Screaming, lashes, electric shocks, isolation. Once they found a fashion magazine in my bag, a male model on the cover. They tied me upside down above a water tank, gagged with cloth. They dipped me until I nearly passed out, then yanked me up. Again and again. I thought I wouldn't survive. Ever since, I've been afraid of any male presence, even my dad. Mom nudged me. Go say hi to your father. You used to be so full of energy. Now look at you. Disgust coated her words. I froze, then shuffled inside. I faked a smile and started eating quickly. I wanted to show her I still appreciated her cooking. But I'd forgotten. My stomach had been mutilated. They'd force-fed us dirty water at the camp. Later, they secretly operated on me, removed half my stomach. I took only a few bites before the pain returned, but I didn't stop. I didn't want to disappoint her. But eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted to the trash bin and threw up. Mom exploded. I spent all day cooking and you act like it's poison. Maybe you need more correction? I panicked. Still gagging, I fell to my knees. Mom, I'm sorry. I'll do anything. Just don't send me back. I clung to her jeans, pleading. She stood frozen, confused. Dad tried to speak. Maybe she's just sick. Call the camp, see if there's something going around. Mom nodded and reached for her phone. I grabbed her wrist, terrified. No, don't call. Please, I was doing fine there. Don't call. If I went back, I wouldn't make it out. She yanked her arm away and stepped outside with her phone. I collapsed on the floor, repeating the same words over and over. Don't call, don't call. Dad leaned down to help. His touch sent a jolt through my body. I screamed. Stay away, he froze. We love you, he said softly. We just wanted to guide you back to the right path. Please talk to me. I struggled, then looked up at him. He looked sincere. My lips parted. I was about to speak when the door slammed open. Mom grabbed my hair, yanked me upright, and slapped me. Dad jumped between us. She's still a child. Stop. But after what I endured, Mom's slap was nothing. She screamed. They told me you weren't eating, that you snuck in junk. That you had a boyfriend. A boyfriend? I froze, trembling. If you don't end it, you're going back, she growled. Dad looked at me with disappointment. Honey, why would you do this? I turned to him, heart pounding. I had trusted him. Tears welled up. Mom, there's no boyfriend. I'll follow your rules. Just don't send me back. I dropped to my knees again, looking up through tears. She stared, puzzled. This is the second time you've knelt today, she said. You never used to beg. What happened to your spine? I gave her a hollow smile. Staying alive meant swallowing pride. I used to be bright, full of energy. A simple lunch with a guy changed everything. She called me boy crazy and sent me away. At first, I tried telling her what happened. She didn't believe me. She even repeated my words to the camp. One day, they stripped me and branded me with a hot iron. They only stopped when I swore to stay silent. Labor Day came. She picked me up. I tried to be perfect. Why was I still being punished? Hadn't I learned? I swore never to even glance at a boy again. Shouldn't that make her proud? She gave me one final chance. A few days, prove you're ready and you can return to school. I nodded desperately. I promise I won't talk to any boys, she seemed reassured. Study hard. Don't mess this up. I isolated myself, locked in my room, studying nonstop. Mom watched via camera. She smiled with satisfaction. Looks like that camp finally worked, she said one night. Had I known, I would have sent you earlier. I just smiled and nodded. The next morning, she took me to register for school. On the first day, I froze outside the gates. Too many boys, I couldn't breathe. What are you waiting for? She snapped. Do you want to go back? No, I screamed. Everyone stared. She flinched but recovered. Then get in. I ran inside, found my class, my seat. My seatmate was a guy. I pressed into the far corner of my desk. All day, I kept my head low, never meeting anyone's eyes. After the final bell, my deskmate stopped me. Do you hate me or something? He asked softly. I shook my head and rushed off. I didn't hear him call after me. On the way home, a group of girls surrounded me in a wooded shortcut. "You're the one sitting with my boyfriend, huh? Think you're better than us?" I denied it. They shoved me into the bushes. Laughter, insults, slaps. "If you tell anyone, you're dead." I limped home, unlocked the door. Mom frowned. "Why are you filthy?" "I tripped," I said quickly. She didn't question it, just told me to wash up. At dinner, I spoke up. "Can I switch seats?" "I'm next to a boy." Mom looked thrilled. "That's the attitude. I'll call your teacher." I mumbled thanks. She sighed. "You haven't been the same since coming home. What's wrong with your father and me?" I didn't respond, just focused on eating. I was too exhausted. Maybe it was me. Maybe I was just broken. At night, I stared at the ceiling. Sleep only brought nightmares. Camp, pain, screams. I went to school each day. Quiet, invisible, still scared. One afternoon, the boy I once had lunch with approached me. "Hey, long time, you okay now?" I backed away, terrified. He touched my arm gently. Mom turned the corner, holding groceries. She saw everything, her face twisted. "You filthy girl!" She hurled the bags at me. Eggs shattered against my chest. A crowd formed. "Talk at home," someone said. "Don't do this here." "She's a tramp," Mom hissed. "No shame." I thought her words couldn't hurt, but they did. They tore through me. "There's nothing going on," I gasped. "Don't lie," she barked. She yanked my jacket and everyone saw the scars. She froze, whispers swirled around us. My arms were covered in old wounds, burns, cuts, marks. "What? What is this?" she whispered, and I laughed, then cried. "I told you, you didn't listen." She rushed me to the hospital. Tests, scans, questions. The doctor stared. "How did this happen to a girl your age?" Mom grabbed the report, hands trembling. "I'm so sorry," she wept. I just watched. It was too late. Before leaving, I asked the doctor for sleep medicine. He nodded and told my mother she needs therapy. The therapist later confirmed, "She's deeply traumatized. Watch her closely." Mom broke down. Dad ran in. "What happened?" She handed him the report. He read. Even he cried. "We're so sorry. We thought we were helping." But I wasn't sure anymore. What did I ever do wrong? Dad made calls. "A big blogger's exposing the place," he said. "They'll pay." I didn't want to crush his hope, but I knew the truth. It wouldn't be that easy. Still, I said, "Let's take legal action." They warned me lawyers would pry. I'd have to relive it all. I agreed. Some other parents joined us. Most were in denial until they saw their kids. But when asked for testimony, I froze. So did the others. Our minds just shut down. Without our voices, the case was shaky. Then one day, the phone rang. "You never learn," a cold voice said. "Tell your parents to drop this or else." I collapsed after the call. Hospital again. My parents were scared. "Maybe we should give up," Mom said. "No," I whispered. "Isn't there another way?" They hesitated, but Dad stood firm. "We'll back you." I let them photograph my scars, wrote down everything I couldn't say. Our story spread online. The court case was scheduled. I was ready until I saw the counselors again. One smiled. I screamed, but I forced myself forward, took the stand. "They electrocuted me, beat me, held me underwater," I began. The defense lawyer sneered. "Our tools are fake." "She's making this up," Mom shouted. "She's traumatized," they smirked. "She's mentally unstable, her words don't count." I broke down. The judge ended the session. Nothing changed. They walked free. I spiraled, slept all day. My parents stayed close. One day, a nurse entered my room, took off her mask. It was her, one of the counselors. "Let's make this quick," she whispered, injecting me. I slipped into unconsciousness, saw my parents smiling at me. I ran toward them. A gate blocked me. "Don't climb," Mom warned, but I did. Wind hit my face. I smiled. I fell. My soul watched from above. My parents collapsed over my body. Doctors rushed in too late. But my death made headlines. The counselor was caught. The camp finally shut down. I watched from above. My parents became volunteers helping lost children. It made me smile. "I forgive you," I whispered, "but don't let this happen again." I thought my story ended the day I died. But it didn't, because even though I was gone, the scars I left behind kept speaking. My funeral was small, quiet. Just my parents, a few extended family members, and a handful of classmates who barely knew me. But there was someone else standing in the back, someone I recognized. The boy I once had lunch with. He stood alone, holding a single white lily. I drifted near him, watching from above. His hands trembled. His eyes were red. I heard him whisper, "I'm sorry, I should have tried harder." My parents sat up front, silent. Mom's shoulders shook as she clutched my picture. Dad didn't cry. He just stared ahead, face pale and stiff. But I could see how broken he was. I could feel the weight of their guilt pulling at them. After the service, something unexpected happened. The counselor who had injected me, the one who killed me, was arrested and charged not just for my murder, but for crimes against dozens of other children. The publicity forced more survivors to come forward. And this time they spoke, they testified. They described the same horrors I had endured, the same torture, the same silence. With evidence piling up, the legal system could no longer look away. The camp's founder was arrested. So were the instructors, staff, and doctors who had covered everything up. The so-called correctional facility was exposed for what it really was, a legal front for child abuse disguised as moral reform. And because I had died, the world finally listened. Documentaries were made. A fund was set up in my name to help survivors of institutional trauma. The law changed. Camps like that were investigated and shut down across the country. My story became a symbol, a warning, but that wasn't the end. One night I visited my mother in a dream. She was sitting on the edge of my bed, clutching my old stuffed bear, the one I had when I was 5. Her eyes were swollen with tears. She whispered, "I just wanted to protect you." I sat beside her. She didn't see me, but I think she felt me. I laid my head on her shoulder like I used to. Her sobs calmed. Her breathing slowed. She finally said what I never heard when I was alive. I was wrong. And that was enough. I visited Dad, too. He was in the garage, tinkering with something he could barely focus on. His hands kept shaking. He muttered, "I should have asked more questions. I should have looked closer." I placed my hand over his. His eyes widened. He turned around like he'd felt a breeze. He smiled just a little. "I hope you're okay, sweetheart," he whispered. That night, he and Mom sat together and created something, the Safe Wings Foundation, a shelter for children who had survived abuse from camps, homes, and schools. My parents gave them everything they never gave me: support, protection, love. I watched the first girl arrive, thin, jumpy, afraid of her own shadow. My mom wrapped her in a blanket and cried softly as she whispered, "You're safe now." The girl didn't respond, not at first, but eventually she nodded. And I smiled. That shelter saved dozens of lives in the first year, hundreds the next. Every child they helped, every scar they soothed became part of my legacy. They wrote my name on the building. For her who spoke when others couldn't. Even though I was gone, I lived in every trembling voice that dared to say, "This happened to me too." I lived in the healing. I lived in the justice. And I lived in the truth. One day, years later, I saw my parents walking through a field of sunflowers, my favorite. They had aged, yes, but they were at peace. My mom turned toward the sky, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I hope you're proud of us." I reached out and touched her hand one last time. "I am." Then the light came for me. Gentle, warm, kind. It was time. I rose higher, no longer afraid, no longer broken. Because even though they took my life, they didn't silence my voice. My name is Lena, and I was 13 when I was sent to the same place that stole her life. Back then, I didn't know her name. I only knew the stories whispered between bunk beds after lights out. The girl who got out, the one they couldn't break, the one they punished so badly she never came back. We were told she died of emotional instability, but we knew better. I remember hearing her name for the first time during a therapy session after my rescue. She was the reason the camp was shut down. I stared at her picture. Her soft smile, her eyes tired but kind. She looked like someone who'd been through hell and still dared to be gentle. When I left the facility, I didn't talk for a year. My parents tried everything. Tutors, therapists, art classes. But nothing helped. Until the day I visited the shelter her parents founded, Safe Wings. That's when I met her mother. She knelt down in front of me and held my hands. She didn't say, "Tell me what happened." She didn't ask, "Why aren't you speaking?" She just said, "You don't owe anyone your story, not until you're ready." And for the first time since the camp, I felt safe. Weeks passed, then months. I started writing again, short notes at first. Then poems, then letters I never sent. Every day I walked past the memorial in the Safe Wings hallway, a small plaque with the narrator's name. One night I left her a note: "You didn't die for nothing. I'm going to speak up, for both of us." That was the night I found my voice. When I turned 17, I stood on a stage at a national conference on youth trauma. My voice shook. My palms were slick, but I looked out at the crowd and saw so many kids like me. So many parents like hers, and I spoke. I told them what they did to us in that camp, the starvation, the waterboarding, the electric discipline, the threats. I told them about the girl whose story started it all. I said her name. People cried, people listened. And for the first time, people believed. After that speech, everything changed. Journalists reached out. Investigators reopened old cases. Survivors who'd stayed silent for years came forward. Many of them thought they were alone. They weren't. The government passed a bill banning conversion-based institutions disguised as moral correction centers. We called it the Her Act, named after the girl who died to expose them. At 18, I joined her parents at Safe Wings. First as a volunteer, then as a full-time counselor. I sat with girls like me, like her, who couldn't look men in the eye, who flinched when doors closed too hard. And every time I told them the same thing, "You're not broken," they were. 10 years later, I returned to that old memorial plaque at Safe Wings. Her picture hadn't changed, but I had. I wore a black blazer and stood beside her mother, now grayer but stronger than ever. Her father wheeled in a cart holding a cloth-covered statue. We pulled the cloth away. It was a bronze sculpture, her kneeling, her head high, eyes open, hand outstretched. The plaque beneath read, "She died fighting silence so others could speak." I was now the director of Safe Wings. I knelt by the statue and whispered, "You didn't just save lives, you gave us a future." That night I dreamed of her. She was standing in a field of sunflowers, smiling. Her scars were gone, she looked free. I reached out and took her hand. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to, because when she left this world, she passed the fire to me.